You're listening to Life Check Yourself with life coach, transformational leader, and dating and relationship badass, Marni Batista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important life and love issues you want to know about. So if you're ready to life check yourself in your relationships, your career, and the areas of your life that matter most to you, and you're not afraid to be called out on your stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
Life Check Yourself with Melanie Curtin. Everything you need to know to have better sex. Ladies, welcome. We are on a roll here because we're talking about sex again, and it makes me super happy. I have Melanie Curtin here. She's a sex and relationship coach. She's got a master's from Stanford. She's been on the Today Show, HuffPost, the New York Observer, and more. And she has a popular podcast called Dear Men, How to Rock Sex, Dating, and Relationships. And I think that they need to know that. So I love that everything you do, Melanie, is based on research. Like, tell me about the research, how you got into the research, how you choose the people that you're surveying.
Yeah. So I am a writer. That's my training and background. And I've written a lot, and a lot of my pieces have done really well. And so what I started doing was writing a piece on a topic, for example, how men use their hands with women, meaning like fingering, let's say.
Yeah.
I don't love the term fingering because I feel like it already sounds kind of violent, but
it sounds like you're going to play the flute. Because they're like, get your fingering right.
So I would write about something and embed some of my surveys in those pieces, and then thousands of people would respond. So I have a lot of data, and most of my, when we say the term sex research, I think sometimes we can think of Masters and Johnson or people that are actually looking at the physiology of sex and sexuality and turn on. What I look at is more feelings and communication. So for example, I ask people, have you ever broken up with someone because of the sex? And then as a follow-up, did you tell that person that was why you were breaking up with them? If so, why? If not, why not? Things like that. I ask people, what's something you wish you could have told a past partner with no sugarcoating about the sex? So my research is more about how we're thinking and feeling about sex, not necessarily the physiology.
So, okay, we'll have to know, so what are the answers to those questions? Like, what does the data show? Let's just start right with those things.
Yeah. So essentially, I have had this experience. So I am a woman who has sex with men, which is I think we're increasing our inclusion in the ways that we use words. And so if I say I'm a straight woman, that's different than saying I am a woman who has sex with men, because it means I could have sex with other people too. Okay. So just to normalize that, I'm a woman who has sex with men. And I was interested in hearing from other women who have sex with men about a couple of things. One, how many of the men that you've slept with were good in bed. I was very curious about this because my percentage was quite low, right? A lot of the men I had slept with were not good in bed. And I was curious to hear from other women who have sex with men if that was their experience too.
Yeah.
So that was the basis of this survey. And involved in that survey, included in that survey, was this question about breakups, because I had ended a relationship because of the sex. It wasn't the only reason, but it was a big reason.
Wait,
right?
so I want the details, Melanie. So like when you say bad, because that's like, so, it could be bad. Like he was a, 3-pump chump. It was bad because he didn't, he had a micro penis. Like what made it bad?
Yeah. Well, so that's kind of the whole question. But for me, in this specific relationship I'm talking about, it was, he was much too rough with his hands. He was too fast and too hard. And so it actually hurt when he used his hands. So again, back to fingering.
Yeah.
Same thing for when he went down on me. It just felt too rushed, too fast, too much, too hard.
Yep.
And wasn't comfortable. And when I would sort of speak up about this, I would do so in a very hesitant manner, which is one of the things that research showed repeatedly when I was asking, and again, a lot of the data I'm sharing with you, I split out to men who have sex with women and women who have sex with men. So that's mostly what I'm speaking to right now. So a lot of the women who have sex with men said the same thing, that they were really afraid to tell the man, to give the man any kind of feedback or adjustment because they were terrified. And there are 4 reasons why women are afraid to give men feedback, which we should cover.
Let's cover it.
The point is,
yeah.
With that man that I was with, I was really scared to say, ow, it hurts. Like, can you please, go less hard? And that was also sometimes true of the intercourse, because if I wasn't warmed up, then I wasn't that wet.
Right.
So even if it was pleasurable with him when I was wet, if I wasn't wet, it wasn't pleasurable. So, and these are all very, very common problems. And so, but what happened was, I was so scared to say, I really need this to be different. I really want this to be pleasurable. I want this to feel really good. Instead of saying that, because I was so scared to say that, I left the relationship. And so this question, have you ever broken up with someone because of the sex? I was expecting that, when I got the results back, I parsed them out and I looked at the men's responses first, men who have sex with women, and the result was 49%. So about half of men have ended a relationship because of the sex.
Okay.
Which did not surprise me, because I think that we perceive sex as being really important to men. And of course it is.
Yeah.
But what surprised me was I thought that the women's number would be less. I thought it would be like 25 or 30%. It turned out to be 61%.
Oh,
so more
Mylanta. Wow.
Men reported ending a relationship because of the sex. And I think that based on the rest of my research, a big part of that is this thing about communication, and that it's so hard to give a man any kind of adjustment or feedback that we just choose to walk instead.
And that's a damn shame, right?
It is, because I think also if I were the man, I would want to know that. But it's really, really hard to speak up. So this is one direct quote from the research. She said, I wish I could have made him see that it was so important for him to be more open and gentle with me that he would lose me if he didn't change.
Yeah.
By the time I decided to leave, I wasn't even open to trying with him anymore. And another woman said, I think my bad sex life with my boyfriend may break us, but he seems totally satisfied. So the question of why, because it seems sort of logical, right? We would think, oh, well, this is an easy fix. Women should just speak up about what's not working, or, what needs to be better. But it's really, really, really hard to do that. It's very scary. And there are actually 4 specific things that women are afraid of when they're thinking about saying something like I said, which is like, ow, like the way you finger me kind of hurts.
Right.
Or whatever.
Like cut your fingernails.
Also, that did come up in the research more than I was expecting, was trim your fingernails.
Bro. Yeah.
Also, your hands. Thanks. That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's 4 things women are afraid of. They're afraid of one. So this is what I was afraid of. I was afraid if I said, ow, that actually kind of hurts, could you do it lighter? I was afraid he would say, oh, fuck you. You don't like how I do it? I'll just stop doing it. So I was afraid I would kind of get like attacked or shamed.
Yeah.
And here is one quote that a woman, I thought this was poignant. She said, he was so emotionally fragile that if I tried to redirect him or tell him what I needed or wanted, he would get hurt and then bring up what I said in public to shame me.
Oh,
yep.
I hate that guy.
And then this is another one. She said, there were times I asked him to go slow, but didn't say it's because it hurts. Somewhere along the way, I did start saying it hurts, but he took it really personally. He said, what's wrong with you? You don't like sex? It ruined our relationship.
Oh my God.
So that's fear number 1.
Yeah.
Fear number 1 is I will attack us. Fear number 2 is nothing. That he'll just withdraw, stop trying, and leave. And that's sort of, gets to the heart of when someone gets feedback that feels personal, it can feel like, well, I guess I'm just bad at this and I'll give up. Right. There's this feeling of resignation of like throwing your hands up in the air and being like, I guess I just suck at sex,
Right.
Concept that, because I work with men a lot. I work with men far more than I work with women. I work with men and couples. And one of the things that I say to men is, it's a lot better if you think about it as an adjustment instead of binary, you're good at this or you're bad at this.
Right.
If a woman is telling you, I would love for you to use less pressure with your hands, like go slower and use less pressure, it doesn't mean you're bad at sex. It just means you were given an adjustment. You got an adjustment. And I think that's like a fundamental thing too in all of us, in all of our lives, right? Whether you're getting feedback at work or something like that, you get feedback on your writing and there's a part of you that's like, oh, I guess I just suck at writing.
Right.
I'm never going to try. Instead of, oh, this is an adjustment. Let me take the adjustment and kind of move forward. So I think there's something fundamentally human about this. But I also think that there's something really important between men and women, specifically around communicating about sex, because like I said, the stakes are so high. People are walking away from relationships, including marriages, because of this. So that second fear, the nothing, right? That he won't, this is what one woman said. She said, I'm not afraid he'll attack me or anything. I'm just afraid he'll turn away and never come back. And it's actually more prevalent in the research than the first one, than being attacked. This is my fear. I'm afraid the man will attack me and be resentful and angry and just kind of hate me. But most women that reported this were actually afraid he wouldn't attack. He would just sort of go away, right? It'd be like, I'll lose him. I'll lose him.
So let me ask you a question. This is so great. So when men give feedback to women, have you done research where women, like if a guy says like, don't do that so hard, or as my husband would say, your diamond ring is like digging into my penis. Like, do women go like, oh my God, I suck too? Or is that based on gender, or are we all taking it personally?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I haven't done exactly the same research on the other side. I would say that generally speaking, in the research that I have looked at from other people's research and sort of a survey, men feel a lot more empowered to speak up about, especially what's not working, right? Don't use your teeth, like stop, go over here, this. They're a lot more likely to be directive and to ask for what they need or want. That's not true of all men all the time. This is a generalization, but there is a difference between the sexes. Men are more likely to speak up, especially about something that's not working. Women are a lot less likely to speak up about something that's not working. So there is a split there in terms of that. And I think that, there's a concept a lot of my guys talk about of they feel like they should already know how to do this. They feel like they should already know how to be good at sex. And so they're often sort of afraid to ask for feedback or receive feedback because they're sensitive to not being good at it or feeling like, which sort of brings us to the next thing that women are afraid men will say, which, my last girlfriend was way easier and less work than you. You're broken.
Oh,
so
yikes.
There's a thing where a lot, I think the truth is that many men are learning about sex from porn.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
Doesn't teach men how actual women's bodies work.
I love that.
I can't tell the number of porn videos that I've watched where I've cringed and been like, ow, I think that would hurt. That would hurt. Like, she's not ready yet. That hasn't been enough time for her to be warmed up. And so she's probably dry. And what you're doing is way too fast, way too hard, way too rough, way too soon. So if you think about it kind of like an on-ramp, right, to a freeway, you can't just jump your car from one street to the next to get to the freeway. You have to go up the on-ramp. And when you think about sexual turn-on, the research varies, but essentially it takes about 7 minutes for men to come to full physiological arousal, meaning everything's happening, everything's ready, all the blood's in the genitals, like all systems go, 7 minutes. And it doesn't take women twice as long. It doesn't take them 3 times as long. It takes them over 3 times as long to get there. So anywhere from 24 to some studies say 45 minutes for a woman to come to full physiological arousal. And again, you don't have to be at full arousal to have sex. I'm not saying it takes 45 minutes, but I'm saying it takes way longer than men. It takes way longer. So in every survey I do, women are constantly saying more foreplay. I need more foreplay. I need more foreplay. I need more foreplay. And I think that part of that is men don't need that as much. And they don't, that's not really in porn.
No.
So
he walks in and she says, "Oh, I need some carrots." And he's like, "I'll give you some carrots."
Exactly. And so men are getting this training that isn't accurate, and they're afraid to ask or get any feedback because they think that any feedback means they're bad. They feel like they should already know and they should already be good at it, but the training they're getting isn't right. So it all sort of conspires to this place where, ironically, when I ask people about, what do you wish you could have told a previous partner about the sex, no sugarcoating,
right?
Which I think is honest. It's an honest question, because you're sort of saying in the question, you don't have to be polite. You don't need to protect anyone. You can just say it the way it is.
Right.
It's this big gap that happens between the sexes, between, men who have sex with women and women who have sex with men, where when you ask them this, a lot of the women say, I wish I could have told you what I needed. I wish I could have told you what wasn't working and what was. I wish I could have told you what I liked and what I didn't like. I wish I could have told you these things. And then on the men's side, many of the men said things like, I wish you could have told me what you needed. I wish you could have told me and what didn't. I wish you had showed me how to please you. So it's like star-crossed lovers. We have these people in bed with each other, having sex with each other, kind of withholding, not sharing their truth. One side is terrified. She's terrified to share her truth. He wants to know her truth, but he's kind of scared to ask, because he feels like if he asks, it's admitting, I don't really know everything about what I'm doing. And that feels scary. That feels like somehow I'm less of a man because I don't already know. And I think this is something we need to talk about more as a culture, because again, the stakes are so high, right? People are actually leaving things like marriages, ending marriages because of this. And it doesn't need to be like that. So I've thrown a lot at you. I have an idea about where to go next, but I would love to hear your own personal reflections if you have any.
I do. Well, first of all, this piece about porn is so interesting, because I remember after my divorce, I was dating, and I was like in like 38, 39, 40, whatever. And I was dating, and I was dating this one guy. And I literally remember, Melanie, like he'd be like, put your leg here and your other leg here. And I was literally like, so not comfortable or aroused. And I was like, what? And he was like, oh, I like to watch porn where the girl's like this and they do like that. And that's what really turns me on. So can you just do that? And I was literally like, bro, what? Like, no, and no. I also found out, this is really interesting. I wonder if you can talk about this. It took him ages to come. And I think like in porn, the mythology is fuck me harder, like for 20 hours, like men want to, be hard and fuck, that's what we want. And I was like, oh my God, when is this going to be over after a while? It turns out he was watching so much porn that, he just couldn't get aroused by actual sex. So you tell me, tell me about that. Because is that a thing?
Yeah, that is a real thing. That's called delayed ejaculation. And I would say a lot of my clients struggle with either premature ejaculation or delayed ejaculation. And that can happen for a couple of reasons. But one is exactly what you just said, which is there's a way that men are desensitized to real sex, real life, real woman sex because of porn. And that can show up in a few ways. Like I said, for some men, it's premature ejaculation, right? They get in person and they can't hit pause.
Right.
There's noises. It's exciting. There's a real person. There's all this sensation, and they don't have a lot of control. There's other physiological factors that can go into that as well. But the other thing that can happen is exactly what you said, which is delayed ejaculation. And I don't know whether that man that you were seeing was also taking Viagra, but that can, or some other, Viagra knockoff, but that can also affect it. And the estimate right now is that 100% of male-bodied porn performers take something.
Oh,
they are all taking a supplement to get hard and stay hard for that long. So it's kind of like when you're looking at magazines and you're like, wow, the women are so beautiful. And then you realize they're all airbrushed.
Right.
It's kind of like porn. It's like, those are not real penises. Don't compare yourself to those penises. Don't compare yourself to what those penises are doing. That's not realistic.
So amazing. And so there is this cultural mythology, though. What I hear you saying is that men think that women want to be jackhammered for like an hour and a half. Like that's what we want.
That's what they're seeing. And that's the problem. One of the major problems with porn is it's primarily produced and directed at straight men, at like cisgendered hetero men for the most part is what the industry is doing. And so a lot of the porn producers and directors are also men.
Right.
But if you actually want to know how to have sex with women, real women, then you should probably learn about sex from women. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
no, for sure.
Like I wouldn't, if I wanted to learn about this and I were a man, I would go to people that had the bodies that I have sex with, not the other thing, because I don't think there's inherently anything wrong with porn. I think the problem is it is fantasy. And if you spend 90% of your time in fantasy, you're not going to get a lot of results in the real world. And that's true of anything, right? Whether you want to earn money, if you're spending all your time fantasizing about it and not actually taking action or doing anything in the real world, you're not going to get the same results. And I think the same goes for sex. And a lot of men just don't know. You know, I've had men, because I have a streaming course. It's called Please Her in Bed. And I've had men take Please Her in Bed and say, wow, this is a lot easier than I thought that it was. I think I was making it more complicated than it actually is. This is a lot simpler. And wow, women are making new kinds of noises. Like I've never heard those noises when I'm a woman. I'm like, yeah, that's what it sounds like when it's actually working. Because a lot of women, it's true. A lot of us do fake it. A lot of us fake it because we want our man to win. We want him to win.
Yeah, right.
About himself. We want to feel connected to him. This is a very personal thing, you know, that we talk about. Again, I think there's a lot of pressure on women, like I said, to speak up or to be honest, etc. When a lot of what I teach men how to elicit that feedback, how to say things like, listen, I really want this to feel good for you. So I always want to know if something isn't working. Right there, you're setting the stage for her letting you know, which is a really good idea because, by the way, the number one sex problem that women report is pain. Pain during, and I'm not just talking about intercourse. I'm not talking about intercourse. I'm talking about all the things I've been saying, right? A man using his finger too hard is painful. It actually hurts. That is not happening on the other side. When I ask men about their top sex problem, that is not what comes up.
What's theirs?
Their top sex problem is hunger.
Yeah, right.
I want more of it. I'm hungry. I'm desperate. I'm thirsty. You know, I feel like I'm not being nourished in this area. Can't find a partner, that kind of thing. Or I have a partner, but she doesn't want it as much as I do. That's a pretty big sex problem for a lot of men. And then right behind that is premature ejaculation, or what I call cock control, right?
Right.
So, get hard when I want to. I can stay hard. I can do what I want with my penis. That's a very, very top problem for men, of not really feeling like they have control in that area, which for some men, honestly, is a big blocking factor for dating at all. Because they're like, well, if I don't feel like I can, you know, if I don't feel like I have to for this and I can't please her, I can't, you know, get it up, stay hard. You know, if I come too fast, I'll be humiliated. There's a fear of she'll humiliate me or I will feel humiliated. And so what's the point of me even trying at all? And I work with men like that. That doesn't have to be a man's reality forever, but men and women have very different problems. And my point is, it's really important for men to know that many, many women have been with many, many men where it hurt. It actually hurt. So to say, listen, I really want to make sure this feels good. I always want to know what's working and what isn't working. When a man is able to lead in that and create that space, that leads to a lot of safety. If you actually want to know and you actually want to get real feedback, you leading as the man is incredibly valuable, because the hurdles for women are very high, right? We're terrified. We don't want to lose connection with you. We don't want you to feel shut down. We don't want you to withdraw from us. We don't want you to emotionally punish us. We don't want to lose your love or your affection. So it's really hard for us to say like, ow, that kind of hurts. It's really, really hard for us to do that. It's much easier if you're like, how's that pressure?
That's great, baby.
Really
you know what's crazy is like what you said is so important about like we need to talk about these things in our culture, because here are the guys that are saying like they're thirsty, and the women are like not wanting to do it because it hurts. So it's like if we could just have these kinds of communications and And what you're saying is like, all this stuff is so normal. And yet when we're in our own head about it, we don't know about Melanie, we don't know about all these numbers, we feel like we're the only one. So we just zip it.
Oh, 100%. And I think, there's this saying that for men, sex is scarce. For women, good sex is scarce, which I think is a great, like, sort of rule of thumb, because it's not like, for a lot of us that have female bodies, yes, we could go out and we could get laid. And the same is not true on the other side. There are a lot of men who feel like, I can't just go to a bar and get laid. That is not in my reality. But in my experience, and I would say I'm a pretty sexually experienced woman, the likelihood that I'm going to experience a lot of pleasure in that process of getting laid is actually low. It's low.
Right.
Like it probably is low. And that, again, is a pretty big difference between the two experiences. Depending on the man and how it goes, maybe he's going to experience pleasure, maybe he's not. But the likelihood that it's going to hurt or feel uncomfortable is low. So, and I'm sort of more talking physically.
Yeah. I'm
not talking psychologically or emotionally, because depending on where he's at with his cock control, that might not be true. But I think that's a pretty vast difference, right? Of feeling like sex is scarce versus feeling like good sex is scarce. And again, like things that surprised me in my research, I was talking about, because I asked women, I got very granular about the men who were best in bed.
Oh, yeah.
I was interested in both sides, but for the men who were best in bed, one thing that kept coming up repeatedly was attention on her during the day. Right. So I would ask, like, what was it about the men that were best in bed? Like, what did they do that was different, or what was something that they did? And women kept saying, oh, he texted me, I really want to see you. I'm looking forward to seeing you. I'm excited about seeing you. He made me feel alive. He made me feel seen. There's something about feeling noticed for the feminine that is intoxicating. And we tend to think of sex as the 20 minutes we spend between the sheets, when really a lot of the women were talking about things that were happening before then. Like a lot of the women were talking about that. And I think that, I've had several married folks go through my course, married men and or couples. And one thing the married men have said is, oh, this has changed my view of what sex actually is. It's longer and it's bigger than just that moment. And so they've, put more attention on their partners, whether that's actually physical affection. One man said, yeah, we went to dinner and I chose to sit, when you can sit across from each other, or chair. Yeah. He was like, yeah, I moved my chair and I put my hand on her knee and I kind of moved it up her thigh a little bit during dinner. And I think she thought that was hot. And again, they're not in bed. That's not, but it can count as foreplay, because it's like, oh, now she's kind of thinking about it. Like she's kind of getting excited, and it wasn't big or obvious, but it was because of that course that he thought of that. And he said, it's improved our connection, not just our sex, but our connection. And I really loved that, because I think that's the whole point of really good sex in a relationship is it's an expression of the connection. It's an expression of the love. And so figuring out your partner and how their body gets turned on is an act of love. That's actually that opening yourself up to like, I really want this to feel good for you. Like, I really want to know what feels good for you and what doesn't. Leading in that way, to me, is love.
I love that. So how can a woman, well, I have two questions. So I want to make sure we cover them. One may be more simple, but there are lots of women that listen that we work with that don't have what they call the chemistry, right? Or like, it wasn't a great kiss, or I couldn't see myself kissing him, but he might be like an amazing lover, or he might have the ability to create chemistry. So 2 parts to that. One is, can that be created? And number 2 is, what can a woman articulate or express to let a guy know what she likes, especially at the beginning?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's see. I'll take those in order, I guess.
Okay, great.
The chemistry conversation is interesting because I work with men mostly, and a lot of what we work on is polarity and having the men actually, drop into their bodies, breathe, bring some of that fire, be able to feel his desire in the moment, be present with it. So I think that in our culture, there are a lot of men who are disconnected from their power and aren't actually showing up with their full vitality. So I guess I just want to honor that.
Yep.
Like, that's true. A lot of women are having that experience on dates. A shitload of women
Yep.
having experience of, this is an awesome conversation. I feel like we connect really well. I would be friends with this guy, but I don't really want him to push me up against a wall.
Right.
I don't really think he could push me up against a wall, right? That's part of the issue, is desiring that fire, that energy, that drive in the masculine is part of, that's for many women, that's part of feminine turn on. So I think there's a certain reality that these women are experiencing.
Yeah.
That I validate. I talked to a man the other day. It was really interesting. He said something about, once he knows that a woman wants it, like once he knows that she's into that kind of play, it's a lot easier for him to go there. And I thought to myself, that's a little bit of a chicken and egg kind of thing, though, because if you're not getting any of that energy at first, I don't know that you're capable of it. So that's a really difficult space to be in. Like, I kind of need you to come towards me in order to see how that feels. If you're just sort of standing there and being passive and not kind of bringing any of that to me, it's really hard for me to kind of take it on faith that you can, Yeah. So I'm kind of conflicted on that question of, I think there's a lot of like, go on the second date, like give him a chance, like see how he shows up. And to a certain extent, I agree with that. And to a certain extent, I'm like, I don't know. That's tough. I'm not sure. So I'm not sure I have a very straightforward answer for that one, for the sort of, we kissed, it wasn't that great. Like, I think a lot of coaches and experts are like, oh no, definitely give it another shot. And for me, I'm like, I would say give it another shot. And my only offering there is, if you as the woman can drop even more into your feminine, meaning really feel body, breathe, let your belly soften, allow yourself to like feel the breeze on your skin, anything having to do with your senses, letting yourself be moved by life, listening to your favorite music before the date, adorning yourself, just treating yourself really well, being in your radiance. Sometimes that will elicit more polarity sometimes. But if the man is really not capable of bringing it at all, it's not. So it's not a given. It's not a for sure, but that can work if you drop more into your feminine. And I want to be specific about, I don't mean traditional, quote unquote,
wear
traditional of wear a dress, wear perfume. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about polarity, meaning feeling into your body, really being in your body, being in your senses. Just the feminine is the flow of life. It's flow. So it's rather than sort of directed attention, thinking, doing that kind of thing. It's flow. It's being in your body. It's allowing yourself to be moved. That's what I mean when I say feminine. If you can bring more of that, sometimes that will polarize the moment.
Yeah, the guys need like the signal. Like, I was talking to a client the other day. It's like, and you're working with men, so I am guessing you're getting a lot of that feedback. Like with me too, with a lot of things that are going on. Like, a good guy does not want to take the risk of being like assertive or aggro or like stalkery or creepy or whatever. So I'm also wondering if men are also kind of like really trying to get a sense of like, do you want this or not? Which is kind of making things confusing. So could women like be more feminine turn up the flirtiness a little 10%. Like,
yes. I call it dropping handkerchiefs.
Yep.
So,
me too.
I'm all about that. I definitely would say almost all the men that I work with are very afraid of crossing the line. They don't want to cross a line. They don't want to transgress. They don't want a woman to be offended. They truly want her to feel safe with them. And so they are erring on the side of caution. So yes, I think dropping handkerchiefs, any signals that you can give. Now, what I would say though, is that I'm betting there are some women listening. They're like, well, I didn't really want to drop a handkerchief. Like I got to the end of the date and I didn't really, feel it.
Yeah.
So is it disingenuous to drop a handkerchief if you're not really feeling it? Kinda, but I do think that becoming skillful in, flirting, allowing a man to know, I will be safe if you come towards me.
Yeah.
I will if you come towards me. That is important. And I think that does make a big difference, rather than I think many of the men that I have worked with have experienced women who were defensive or closed.
Yeah.
And so it felt kind of scary to approach. And it didn't really feel like there was going to be any, success there. And that happens a few times. And then, you're more cautious.
Yeah, for sure. I was talking once, my kids are in their mid-20s, and I remember talking to one of the guys who was like 25 or whatever, and he was like, and he's young. He was like, I'm afraid to ask someone for their phone number at this point. Unless it's so obvious that, you want, and which is why everyone's like sliding into the DMs, right? Because it seems like one step away. It's so confusing. Thank God they have you, Melanie. Okay, wait. I don't even remember what the other question that I asked you was. That you were like, you think linearly like me.
I believe it was about, how does a woman speak up?
Yes. Okay. So how can she be like, I'm not Debbie from Debbie Does Dallas. So let me teach you what women actually want. I may look like Debbie, but I'm no Debbie, honey.
Well, the analogy I like to give my men is that women are like cars. So
I love that.
We're setting aside Teslas for this example because Teslas don't have transmissions.
Right.
But all cars have transmissions. They all have brakes. They all have spark plugs. They all have tires. They all have the same parts, right? And every car is different. So my car will only open with the fob. It won't open with the key. Some cars pull to the left. Some cars are a little weird with the reverse mirror. There are things you need to know about your car, if you're borrowing a car. Your woman is kind of like that. And so, for me, when I'm, guiding a man, I like to say like, ooh, I really like less pressure. Like the less pressure you use, the softer, the more sensitive you are, the more I feel. I feel way more with this kind of pressure, and I'll kind of do like very, very light touch on his arm than this kind of pressure. And I put more pressure. Like that doesn't work for me. It actually numbs me out.
Yeah.
So I will sort of, sometimes be proactive about like, this is what I really love and it really turns me on. It really works for me. And if it's too much, if it's too heavy, it numbs me out. I can't feel anything. And sometimes it hurts. So I think there's a way that you can guide with that. And then something I like to do is the sex debrief. So after the sexual session, just mentioning things that really worked. Like I really loved how light you were with your fingers at the beginning. That was really hot. Or I loved how slow you were right in the middle. There was this part where it was really slow and we were looking to each other's eyes and I just felt my whole body come alive. So there's kind of two things you want to be doing. One is, mentioning what works for you or what worked for you. So positive reinforcement essentially. And then also like letting them know like this doesn't work for me, right? It kind of numbs me out or it hurts or whatever the truth is for you about something around sex. And then kind of like, how about you? Like, what was a favorite part for you, etc. And I have found that to be effective just in like,
I love that idea.
You tend to get more of what you put praise on. So if you praise a certain thing, he's probably going to do it again next time.
That is so true. I love that. I love the let's talk about it, because I always say to my clients, if you're going to put the ding dang in the wing wang, I'm hoping you can have a conversation after, right? If he's going to be inside you, then you can chat, right? So I think that's great. I really just love this whole idea about, this is a conversation that we need to have. I think there's a lot of stuff going on in our culture with not dealing with feelings, with, comparison, despair, and looking at other people and social media and porn and all this kind of stuff. And in the end, we can have all this technology, but we're two human bodies that are still just kind of working the same way, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's also worth mentioning that women's bodies change over the course of the month and over the course of their lives. So I think a lot of the time it's what's going to work tonight or what's working today. And I think that's totally fine to bring up. My breasts are more sensitive at certain times of the month. And so sometimes it's going to feel really good for you to pinch my nipples, and other times it might be a little bit much. So
poor men.
Yes. You don't know, Well, I mean,
I say that in I get that's why I think this is a really great thing, because I had a man panel once, and the guy literally said the same thing. He was like, y'all have come standard equipped with the same parts, but operating all of you is completely different.
Yes, exactly. I remember talking to a woman once who said the way that she learned to masturbate, I think she was afraid that someone would walk in on her. She shared a room or something. And so she learned how to do it really hard and really fast. And so that was kind of the only way that worked for her with someone's hands.
Yeah.
And I'm exactly the opposite. You go hard and fast with me right away and it's going to hurt. So, the things in my streaming course are kind of in aggregate. This is what thousands of women say about what works for their bodies. And ultimately, the whole first section of the course is about how to talk about sex, how to elicit that from your car, because you want to know how to drive your car. You want to know what works for your car. And that's not going to be the same as some other car.
I love that. I think of it as playing a violin. After 13, I've been with my husband 13 years. After 13 years, it's I am a Stradivarian. He can pull out the violin and play it, after 13 years. And I think that takes time and it takes communication. And I love what you're doing. And I love that you bring data to the emotion and physicality of something so important as sex.
Yeah, thank you. I had gotten feedback like that from men who've said, I wish I'd known this sooner. I really wish I'd known this. I feel I look back at my relationships and I think I might have been able to stay in some of them if I'd been able to lead these conversations about sex. And that's sort of bittersweet for me, because on the one hand, it's flattering. On the other hand, it kind of makes me sad. Because it feels we should be teaching this in school. That's my philosophy. I think we should be teaching relationship skills in school. And we're actually not allowed to teach pleasure-based sex education in the US. At this point, you are not allowed to teach about pleasure in sex education, which is
so sad.
Pretty ridiculous when you look at my research, right? You're okay, well, if you want some failed marriages, then let's not talk about this. But if you want people to have close, intimate relationships that feel really good for everyone involved, including the kids, by the way, and the parents having really good sex and feeling really connected, guess what? They're better to their kids. They're easier to be around as people. Then fine. But in my world, I think we should have relationship education, and that should include sex as part of that.
So ladies, if you have a guy that you're dating and the sex is really bad and you end it, just write on the napkin, melaniecurtin.com, smile and walk away.
Oh my God. Yeah, I thought it would end with a few quotes from the women who slept with the men that were best in bed.
Ooh, let's do that. Thank you for, by the way, we're going long. We're going long and slow because it's so good. Okay, keep going.
This is very quick. One woman said, "It was slow and deliberate and left me begging in the end."
Woo!
Another one said, I felt like he read me like a book, played me like a fine instrument.
The violin.
So that really goes along with your violin. And then the last one, he broke me out of the cage of vanilla sex that was my marriage.
Oh, he's a hero.
I know.
He's damn Thor. It's almost July. It's coming out soon. Okay. Melanie, you're amazing. Thank you so much. MelanieCurtin.com, notes in her links and her courses and all that stuff in the show notes. It's been so fun. So ladies, if you can't masturbate, then at least life check yourself. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for tuning into today's show. So if being in an intimate relationship in which you feel 100% seen, heard, and accepted by a high caliber man is a priority for you right now, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working with me and my team at Dating with Dignity, here's what I want you to do. Just head over to DWD VIP. That's D as in dating, W, D as in dating, VIP.com, and book a call to speak with my team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 60 minutes and you'll get crystal clear on what's stopping you from finding true love right now. We'll also take a look at what you want to create, what you want your whole life to look like when you're able to finally be fully expressed as a woman in a healthy relationship with an incredible guy. And if we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to be, we will show you the fastest path possible that makes sense for you to do that. We help smart, successful women all over the world solve this one missing piece in their life so they can finally have it all. So to see if we can help you do the same thing, head over to DWDVIP.com. I'm Marni Batista, and let's talk soon.